The honourable member for I have York Southwestern.
This this change to the criminal code is something that, in general, we support. We support at least it going to second reading because it deals with the very real and very perceived threats to the public that come about from the not criminally responsible declaration by judges. I say perceived threats because part of what is driving this this attempt at an amendment to the law is to play upon the fears of Canadians, and that's something that we think should be left out of the debate. It's something that the other side is very good at, is playing at criminal fears and fears of crime, fears generally. But we need to look at this legislation with a clear and thoughtful lens. We need to look at this legislation and determine, is it achieving a good public policy goal? Is it achieving it in a way that will not be a burden either on the public or on the provinces or on the victims of crime? And that's one of the very serious concerns we have about this legislation, is that it may in fact be a burden on a number of portions of the criminal justice system, including the provinces themselves. As a kind of a mental review of what the system now is, a very, very, very small percentage of accused, and I'm not going to say criminals, but of accused, are actually found not criminally responsible in the course of their trial. We're told that it is something like 1 in 100,000 individuals who are accused, not members of the public, but who are accused, are found not criminally responsible. That is an extremely tiny percentage, and we're spending a lot of time and effort in dealing with some perceived notions of that, some of which were created by recent events in the news, and some of which are just general fears of Canadians. That very, very small percentage then needs to be brought to the attention of both sides of the House. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, I will be sharing my time. Thank you. So there are two basic definitions that happen to individuals who are accused. Sometimes they are found unfit to stand trial, in which case we wait until they are fit to stand trial. Then once they are at trial, if in fact that individual was not criminally responsible by reason of a mental disorder at the time of committing the crime, that person can be, and sometimes is, declared not criminally responsible at the time of committing a crime, and therefore, rather than a prosecution, they are shifted into the mental health system. And the mental health system includes a review board, it includes judges, it includes mental health professionals, and at that point, the mental health system and the review board and the judges determine when a person is not criminally responsible by a process of review, at what point is that individual no longer a threat to society. And if they are no longer a threat to society, at that point they can be given either a conditional or an actual discharge. But they also can be sent to hospital, and to be held in hospital, restrained in hospital. It's like a jail. We're aware of lots of them. And it's those individuals that this bill is attempting to deal with. Now again, as I said, only 1 in 100,000 accused are actually not criminally responsible, and a smaller percentage of that is those individuals who end up in a hospital setting or who end up in a mental health process. Now, the changes that are being proposed are, by and large, welcome, but they need discussion. They need analysis. They need, for the mental health professionals in this country and the criminal justice professionals in this country, to advise us on whether or not these provisions will create unintended consequences or will create injustices in the system. For example, one of the changes is that the review board must now move in its analysis of not criminally responsible individuals, must now take public safety as their paramount consideration. Is that a good thing? Or is it now skewing? Is it now changing? Is it now putting fetters, as my member from Edmonton Strathcona said earlier, on the justice system? Is it in fact restricting the ability of an individual judge or the review board to actually consider matters fairly and reasonably? And we need more counsel, we need more advice from the both the criminal justice system and the medical profession as to whether or not that is in fact going to change the outcomes, in a meaningful way and change the outcomes in a way that is more protective of the public. I don't know the answer to that question. It certainly sounds on the face of it like, of course, but maybe that change will in fact cause other problems. The other bigger change to this bill is the creation of a high-risk definition, which in fact will now add to the panoply of definitions that a significant threat to the safety of the public could be attached to an individual. And again, what is the purpose of this change? What is the end result of that change? It may be a good thing, but we need more advice, we need more counsel, and we need not to do it from a panoply of fear. We need not to take this new definition out of the context of what it is this law is attempting to provide in the first place. It's attempting to provide a system that protects the public generally, but also provides the mechanisms and means to rehabilitate. For criminals in the criminal justice system who are not found to be not criminally responsible, in other words, those who are criminally responsible, the purpose of the justice system is to make them into better citizens. But we find that the recidivism rate amongst those who are in that system is between 41 and 44%. So we're not doing a very good job of protecting the public with the regular criminal justice system. In the not criminally responsible justice system, the recidivism rate is around 2.5% to 3%. So we are doing a good job when we are finding that those individuals have a mental disorder that needs treatment, and when that mental disorder is properly treated, those individuals can return to society and be productive members of Canadian society, which is what we ultimately want. So we need to examine both halves of the justice system and whether or not we're actually doing a good job in it. The third major part of this legislation is to indicate that victims are now to be a major part of the regime. The victims themselves have already suffered at the hands of the perpetrator, at the hands of the person not criminally responsible, and with good intent, we are asking that the victims be notified of those individuals' discharge, that the individuals who are being discharged could have a non-communications order attached to them, that they're not allowed to deal with the victims. And in addition, the safety of the victims needs to be taken into account when a decision is made about the release of an individual back into the public. And that portion of this bill is something that we think needs a lot of attention. We agree that victims are by far the most paramount consideration in any of the justice system legislation, and we don't spend enough time and effort now on looking after victims. We don't spend enough, I doubt that there's enough time, effort, and money in the mental health and the resources of the provinces to actually give victims of serious crime the help they need in getting over it, the help they need, and we should be looking at that as well. We also understand that this is a very difficult issue for victims. What if victims don't want to have any reminders whatsoever of this individual? Do we put them in an awkward position of having to say, no, I don't want to be reminded, so they have to actually be asked, do you want to be reminded, and then refuse to be reminded? It's a very, very difficult position for the victims to be in. How much time do I have left, Mr. Speaker? The victims then are in a position where they are not necessarily receiving the appropriate attention, and they are not necessarily receiving the appropriate help from the provincial medical system, but those victims are being asked for their opinion on this thing, and it may in fact be difficult for you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.